Yuba-Sutter Film Commission, or as we're calling it, Film Yuba-Sutter. So I do have Sabrina Jurisich. She is the commissioner, and she's going to be giving full update, but I wanted to kick it off. First of all, by saying thank you to the council and the city of Marysville for supporting this effort. We are now moving into year 2, and Sabrina will go over everything that has been accomplished over the last year and then what our plans are moving forward. But again, I just wanted to have the opportunity to say thank you to the council, and also to let you know that I'm going, which includes Yuba County, Sutter County, and Yuba City, along with Marysville. I am presenting to Sutter County next week, but so far I have yeses from talked about an approach where the would grow over year 1 to year 3. We have determined that going into year 2, we're going to just stay at the same level of investment. And so the request has been for $6,250 from each of the 4 jurisdictions. And we received an additional $25,000 from the Yuba-Sutter Lodging Association, totaling $50,000 to continue the work on building Film Yuba-Sutter. So the idea is to maintain the contract with Upstate Film Commission and the work being done by Sabrina. And that has worked out really swimmingly so far. And so she has, built the infrastructure, and she's working on promoting the Yuba-Sutter community to the film industry. And she's done a fantastic job. But I do hope that one day we will have our very own Sabrina for the Yuba-Sutter community. That would certainly be my vision for the program. But as you know, I will be moving on from the chamber, so that will be determined by the leader along with work the council. So this point commission, she's also run Film Shasta, and she's currently overseeing Shasta County, Tehama County, and Yuba-Sutter counties in the realm of film and production. And she travels all over the state promoting. So with that, hopefully the technology works, and I will turn it over to Sabrina.
Sabrina, are you there?
Yes, thank you so much, Marnie, for that introduction, and thank you as well, Council, for your support. And I appreciate you accommodating this. I don't know if Marnie shared, but I was in an accident a few weeks ago, and so remote work is my only option for the next couple of weeks per doctor's orders. So, but things are still moving along in every other way. So I understand that someone is going to be there to forward the slides. Is that correct? Perfect. All right, awesome. So this, I just kind of wanted to show a video. This is something that the FLIX, which is the statewide network of film commissioners, put together. And it just does a really good overview of just kind of reminding the value and why we work to try to get production in the state and in our communities. So if it does work, great. If it doesn't, we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, I can't tell if that played on your side. On my side, I didn't hear any audio. So hopefully you didn't just see imagery. But if we can move to the next.
Worked.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Good. I'm happy to go over key points, but that's wonderful. Okay, perfect. So if we can move to the next slide then. So one of the things that I definitely like to share, we often, think of a variety of things that drive the economy in California. And in June of 2021, the film and television industry was the #2 economic driver. And I just like to point that out because it's something that is benefiting, obviously, the entire state. And we are doing everything in our power to make sure that Film Yuba-Sutter is doing everything to help drive traffic the production industry has towards that area to benefit the community here. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to highlight some of the things that we've done. As Marnie mentioned, this first year was really about developing the infrastructure. And so some of the things that we did, thanks to your support and the designation that came from the counties, was we were able to join several key industry affiliations, including recognition from the California Film Commission, the Association of Film Commissioners International, and Film USA. We're also business members with LMGI, which is the Location Managers Guild International. And, these organizations help productions understand that there is somebody in the area who knows how to work with them, is going to be a good resource, and is able to connect them with the community. So there's a designated person filling that role. We did create branding and began working on the social media and websites. If you can go to the next slide, please. And so some of the things that we did as well as we were gathering assets was we'd created a series of promotional videos. Those have started. We launched those at the beginning of the year on the social media page. They're also featured on the website, and they're just a variety of different types of locations that are film friendly within the region. We have gone to various events, industry events, even a local screening for production that filmed before the Film Commission was established. But part of our role is to support local filmmakers. And so we want to make sure that we're doing that to the best of our ability as well. Next slide, please. And this is going to be, if the video works, this is going to be a promotional or sizzle reel short video that we show to promote the area. If it doesn't, we can move to the next slide.
Sabrina, are you still
Yeah.
there?
I'm still here. It's really hard to, I'm so sorry. It's hard to tell on this side if it's working or not. So the next slide, please. We have that video if for whatever reason it's not functioning on your end. It's on our website and also on the social media account, and we have a YouTube channel. We also have an extended version that we show. So we really tried to look at a variety of locations to really feature how much diversity in assets the region has to offer the industry. So some other things that we're doing to promote is including different locations in our newsletter that goes out specific to people in the industry, and we send those out at minimum quarterly. And when we have news in between, those go out more often. And Film Yuba-Sutter is always included in that. There's also a channel on our Upstate California Film Commission website that people can go directly to Film Yuba-Sutter as well. And then several locations that are featured on the homepage. Next slide, please.
Sabrina, when I'm seeing these notations, value of services, exactly what do those numbers represent?
Yeah. So one of the things, when I talked with Marnie initially about coming under the umbrella is that, what it would cost for an independent film commission to do the services that we're providing. We wanted to just kind of show and reflect like what it would take budget wise to make that happen, because everything that when you're talking about sending somebody out to go to travel or go to training, or the advertising, that the placements, that the value for the advertisements that are being placed, and those things, I just wanted to have on our communications, just so that there was an awareness of what those things would cost if you were to do all of those things independently. And it's a great value, and that's primarily the reason for including those on here. We also gather quarterly, we gather data throughout the year. We are providing quarterly reports and our annual report that show the work that is happening on a broad scale within the region that we represent, but also we drill it down into what's actually happening in Yuba and Sutter counties so that you know what is coming back to your area for the efforts that we're doing. The first year, if you can go to the next slide, please. The first year, we were really not counting on having much production activity at all because we didn't have the assets. We didn't have a website. We didn't have, social media. But what we had, thankfully, was relationships that had been built already in the industry. And when I was able to come and experience everything that happened, not everything, but a lot of what the community had to offer, it was really easy to start recommending productions to film in that area. So we have quite a bit of productions in the pipeline for this coming year. And we're going to get into the metrics of what we've actually been able to have happen as well. So we do have a brochure that is specific to Film Yuba-Sutter. We're working on another one that will be included in the whole region. If we can go to the next slide, please. And you could keep going. One more slide, please. So we've had nine inquiries since starting last February. These are reporting through December. We've had one production come to film. It was a commercial production with 4 shoot days, 9 room nights in total, and 1 local hire. We are seeing more activity. We had a docu-series that's going to be in town actually this week. We have several feature films that are in the pipeline that, will most likely be hiring lots of locals and booking room nights. And so it's going to be a really good year. I believe 2023, there'll be a really good return on investment that has happened so far. Next slide, please. So I talked about just a little bit of this, but one of the things that we do want to do is add a Yuba-Sutter representative to our board, our overarching board. I've talked with Marnie. She's going to be giving us some recommendations on that. We're going to continue to represent at events and in advertising, and we definitely, are really hoping to increase the number of productions and local economic impact. I mean, that is definitely our #1 goal, and I see that being something we're going to have really good numbers to come back to you next year with. So that is the end of my report. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Fellow councilman, any questions? I've got one. Maybe it's a couple. Sabrina, still there?
I am.
Thank you. So Sabrina, as I understand it, and Marty's here, the local chamber wanted to explore the opportunities in the film industry that could benefit the economies, the local economies. And in this understanding, you have an umbrella organization that effectively represents several communities throughout the state, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so you're working for all these communities. How do Yuba and Sutter counties get this? Because that sounds like we're in the midst of a lot of noise. So the challenge for our film commission, which is under the umbrella of your organizing body, I think I'd call it. How do we get noticed in
the midst of it?
Bang for a buck, to get a sense of satisfaction that we're getting bang for a buck?
Sure. Well, I think one of the ways is that so being able to come down and see how amazing the community was in their response to production, the access that you have to Sacramento Airport, and even just the filmmaking community in Sacramento that's very well established, is something that's a very strong suit for the location. But you have an incredible amount of locations that are very different from what is in like Tehama and Shasta counties per se. Filmmakers like to work with one point person, and they so having, it may feel as though it's like a competitive thing, but that is not really how the industry works. It's very collaborative. And so having us as a representative, I have a team of people,
Okay. Okay. And nation, how many do you represent?
I'm sorry, it's cutting out. Did you ask how many counties are we representing?
Just a moment. We need a microphone because people are viewing online. I apologize, Marty.
It's the counties that are being represented, not necessarily organizations within
I understand.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I'm wondering how many counties, in addition to the Yuba-Sutter area,
So
represented by Sabrina's organization.
So it's Tehama, Shasta, and then the Yuba-Sutter. We are very special, and we're unique, and we have unique aspects to our community that will be attractive. And I want to come back to say this is our starting point. This full service that's being offered to us, as Sabrina laid out before, my hope is that we will have our very own representation of the Yuba-Sutter area as this grows, because we want to see that economic impact, and we're still sort of in that build phase.
No, and before we got into the videos and the technical problems there, I did understand in a positive way. You set the foundation, you join the networks, you're in the club, number one, and that's important. You got to be in the right organizations to do something, and then specifically promoted the area. And so I presume there's going to be another reach for cash and see what the plan is for the current year. So there will be measuring progress to promise and what have you, but right now you're doing the appropriate things.
Have a slide that shows some metrics and measurements, and she does a pretty fine job of tracking. But what we really want to see over time is that economic impact, and we're starting to attract more production, and with that, hopefully, more dollars. I know in a couple of conversations that I've had with Sabrina, she reached out to me about some specifics in our community for a production that, had a budget of $100,000. So if you start adding, those productions up, you'll really start to see the benefit. But I think, because we were in the build phase, and now I see us sort of moving to the phase where we're going to doing a lot more promotion, that hopefully will really start to get some traction.
I have a tremendous amount of experience investing in young companies that were just almost starting in a garage. So I get this, and that these are the steps that need to be taken. It'll be interesting as we go forward to get a forecast or build expectations or thinking around going forward. And that'll be whenever. I presume there's going to be another presentation. We were funding for what, 1 year?
Right. And so we are in the second year. And that is, so we have the support of Yuba City, and we have the support of Yuba County at the $6,250 level. And so we're hopeful that we'll get from Sutter County and of course Marysville as well. moving forward. And with the 25,000 from Yuba-Sutter Lodging Association, that's another dollars to continue the work.
You don't put your hand out, they can't pull it up. Thank you. And thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you.
To the chair.
Yes, sir.
Before we move on from this topic, I'd like your permission. I normally would save these comments for council comments, but I'd like to say a few things here. Mainly because Marnie's still here and we have a crowd here. But Marnie, I just want to acknowledge you and what you've done with the Chamber of Commerce and what you've done in partnership with the city of Marysville. I remember just a couple months after being elected and sitting on the council and having some dialogue with you and talking about how do we get local businesses more engaged in Marysville and how do we do that, and having some of those initially MBA, Marysville Business Alliance, which is now taken off. And last meeting, we had lots and lots and lots of people there and it was very successful. And what you've done in promoting the film commission, and just hats off to you with what you've done with the chamber over the last few years. You're a pretty remarkable person. And I wish you the best in your new ventures. So thank you.
I join Councilman Bell's. I've seen the most recent is the flash lunch or the flash mob at the lunch spot better, and everybody was happy to be there and see something new if they hadn't been there before. And businesses, a lot of businesses, particularly coming out of the COVID situation, just needed someone to encourage them, right? They've done it fabulous. Congratulations on your new job. Oh,
I'm going to echo Councilman Bell's and the mayor in thanking you for bringing the MBA to fruition. Without you, this would not have happened. It's a direct result of your care and your staff, and we really appreciate it. We're also thrilled to death to have jobs and more economy to this beautiful region. We're also really looking forward to seeing what you're going to be doing in your next venture. We look forward to that as well. So thank you very much. It's really wonderful for our team.
Madam Clerk, are we moving on? Am I missing things?
No, we are moving on, Mayor.
Thanks again. Seems so boring as compared to the film industry and what have you. I've got a nephew in the film industry. He got a degree in set design at Brown University, and for over 30 years now, he's been with Nickelodeon. He's won awards as a set designer, and he's also a director now. It's a fun business. Okay, let's see. Community consent calendar forum. We're moving on to exciting things here. Individuals wishing to address the city council concern, if you would like to comment and you're attending the meeting in person, please complete a speaker's card and return it to the city clerk, and we'll call upon to go to the podium to address the council. If you're participating via Zoom, raise your hand and you will be called upon, whether in person or via Zoom. Keep your address to the council, and by state law, the council is not permitted to undertake any action or discussion. I am not preparing a posted agenda. There's good reasons for that. If you have any documentation you'd like to the council, please mail it to clerk, 60th Street, Marysville.
Not tonight, Mayor.
Maybe I should ask do that before I have calendar. We have 6 items on the consent calendar. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine and therefore approved by one motion, unless a council member or the city manager first requests that matter be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion. Action. What is the will of the council?
So move.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, that was unanimous. Okay, we now move, and I've got another paragraph to read. Discussion and action calendar. All matters on the discussion on the agenda, pardon me, are discussed and will be acted on individually. Members of the public may request to speak on any of these items for up to 3 minutes. Here in person, speaker's card from the city clerk, return it to her via Zoom, raise your hand and you'll be called upon in order. When called upon, you'll be unmuted if on Zoom. Let's see, whether here in person, attending via Zoom, when called upon, please give your name clearly for audio recording. If you have any documentation you'd like sent to the council, please mail to City Clerk 526 C Street, Marysville 95901. And we are going to move ahead because we have representatives from the Yuba-Sutter Youth Soccer League here to the facilities use agreement for the Yuba-Sutter Youth Soccer League, Inc. The recommendation is to pass a motion to approve a 10-year agreement with the Yuba-Sutter Youth Soccer League to utilize a portion of Beckworth Riverfront Park for youth soccer training and competition. Mr. Dan Flores, I believe you are addressing this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
And I am excited to make this recommendation tonight after quite a long time of putting together the facts and figures. And I want to commend Mr. Shad for working on this, and also the members of the Youth Soccer League who worked really hard on it, as well as Brant. So give them that commendation. But this recommendation is to pass a motion to approve a 10-year agreement with the Yuba-Sutter Youth Soccer League, utilize the portion of Beckworth Riverfront Park for youth soccer training and competition. The Yuba-Sutter Youth Soccer League has been a long-standing licensee of the city of Marysville. They have held an agreement with the city for youth soccer competition since November 2nd, 1988. Their current use agreement expired on June 1st, 2022, and YSYSL is interested in extending the term of the agreement for the 2023 soccer season. The city and YSL wish to continue their relationship for the use of the soccer facility on terms and conditions that are beneficial to taxpayers of Marysville who own the grounds and many thousands of youngsters who are served by YSL every year. Once this recommendation is approved, the city would grant YSYSL on the terms and conditions set forth in the attached agreement a license to use the license area on license use days. The community development director, the city manager, city attorney, and directors of YSL have all agreed upon the terms. In the fiscal analysis, this agreement is for 10 yearly fee of $3,000 in the first year, $3,250 in the second year, and then increased by $250 each subsequent year. The 10-year contract has a value of $41,250 for user fees. Along with the use fee, the agreement also contains language for reimbursement for the cost of utility services and other services supplied by additional benefit and interest is really difficult. Sports events, a lot of people to the community, and here today we do have representatives as well.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. My name is Jamie Brown, and I'm the secretary of the Yuba-Sutter Youth Soccer League.
Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, and I'm Charlie Osborne. I am the coaching coordinator, and I've been with the soccer league since Riverfront Park opened. So they kind of voted me as the spokesperson because I'm the most experienced one here. Yuba-Sutter Youth Soccer has been a real blessing to the communities, all of them, but to Marysville. And Marysville has been a kind and generous partner to us, and we'd like to continue that. We've hosted kids down there. We had 2,300 kids this last year. We have had thousands of kids. Most of the high school coaches and some of the college coaches in this area came through our program. We send kids from YSYSL have gone on to play in college. There's at least one in the pros right now. We have a great track record of supporting this community in doing this. And we do this on our own. We do all the maintenance at the complex. And for instance, on the handout, one of the reasons we gave you that handout is in the year 2020, because of COVID, when we were closed, we still maintained the complex because we knew we would be playing there again, and it would be onerous to start from ground zero. Or on the years where they over-release from Oroville and we flood down there, we take the responsibility, and Marysville has been great about partnering with that, with helping, but we take the lion's share of the responsibility of getting those fields playable again. And we're really excited about having a new contract because we know there are upgrades that have not been done over the years for various reasons. Among them, that we keep the cost low so that we make sure we don't turn anybody away. But we do want to get kids playing. We do want to get improvements so we can get tournaments back there. We can get more events. And it's our intention, partnering with Dan and the city, to improve the complex, make the fields more playable, more usable, and grow as a soccer community and do great things for Marysville. And we're looking forward to this agreement and going forward.
Thank you. No, I actually wanted to ask some questions, but first of all, I want to make sure there's no public comment. Madam Clerk, any public comment?
Not on this item, Mayor.
Thank you. From the council, I had some questions, comments. I think in an era of video games, seeing all those young people running around down there is just warms my heart. It warms my heart, and it's just great. And we've got one player in the pros. That should be celebrated. The editor was here a while ago. Where'd he go? I think that's great. Let me ask, the name of the park is it? It's not just Riverfront Park. It's Beckworth, not James Beckworth, but Beckworth Riverfront. Beckworth. I would, just a minor suggestion, if that could be included in your documentation and what have you, public stuff. I'd like to keep that Beckworth name there, not only because it honors a great man, but my great grandfather and James Beckworth used to ride together. They were both in the cattle business in the 1800s, and I think Mr. Beckworth should be remembered. And if I notice you called Riverfront Park, I'm not criticizing. This is a gentle suggestion, what have you. Let's see. Any other questions, comments? I'm not.
Sorry. Gio Aguilar. He went to Lyndhurst High School and is currently playing in Vancouver.
That's magnificent. Magnificent. All right. Well, goodness sakes, thanks so much for your presence. Let me make sure I'm on the right page here. Okay. Yes, sir.
Make sure that we're addressing, this says on the water portion of it, it would be paying 33%, but at some point within this 10 years, aren't we going to have each area metered?
Yeah, we intend to have likely this year. So
does that need to be entered?
I believe we've structured the agreement to say that they'll pay 33% until we get the meters in. And that is on the council. It is only for the Cal water portion of it, the potable water. The well water, they maintain a well and pump on their own there.
I didn't see it, but that's fine, as long as
Yeah.
Andrew makes sure they're aware of that,
They are.
the meters.
And, you know, I will say YSL has been excellent to work with. It took us a while to get through all the details of the contract because there have been some changes based on the utilities and a fee. But I intend to continue to partner with them and have a good relationship. It's more than just a contract in my mind. They're a nonprofit. They provide a great opportunity for children to learn to play soccer and stay away from the video games. Their activity out there also keeps vandalism and theft down significantly, which is one of our goals. They bring people to the area out there. There are some grant opportunities available, and the soccer league's interested in enhancing at least one field to have some night play out there, which I think would be great. So we'll be continuing to work with them to improve the facility.
Especially in August after dark. Any other comment? Councilman Belson.
Just a comment. I've got a 7-year-old that enjoyed the soccer season last year. And so I got to spend quite a bit of time down in the fields. And just want to say you guys run a top-notch program down there. And you got thousands of kids and then thousands of parents all running different directions. And everybody seems to be on the same place and doing the right thing. I know behind the scenes, there's probably a lot of chaos, but for us out on the front of it, it's remarkable, the organization that you guys have in that. So she thinks she's a pro too, by the way, at 7. But anyways, I would massively in support of this. So.
Done. What's the will of the council?
I make a motion to move to approve.
I second.
And second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
And thank you, Dan. Great presentation. Okay, we will go back now to item number 7. And this would be the topic is creation of and the recommendation is to pass a motion to adopt an appropriately numbered resolution establishing a new ad hoc committee, Marysville Growth and Development Committee. Mr. Jim Shad, would you please share with us?
Okay, first I wanted to give the caveat that this was not my idea. So if it doesn't come out well, it's not my, I'm just kidding. This is a great idea. And this came about as we started going through the general plan. And we've had some discussion and debate about our options, which are really, I think, more priorities and phasing. Council Member Belza suggested that we may start a committee to start looking at our options and our phasing for development within the community infill, as well as the possibilities of growing outside of our levees. From that, we brought back to council a proposal for an ad hoc committee. So it would have a limited term that would explore opportunities for growth for the city, create a development path for those recognized opportunities, and make recommendations of identified development regions to be implemented into specific plans in conjunction with the general plan update. So scrutiny and input on growth as it relates to both the general and specific plans. The right stated it is to begin that ad hoc committee and move forward with convening it.
Any other questions? I've got a question, if I may. If I could ask Councilman Belzig, since you are the source of this, very good idea, very good idea. It would seem that since we're doing an ad hoc, hopefully this will be a predicate to perhaps a new formally established mainline committee, long-term. Growth and development is obviously long-term, but this is a nice predicate. Get something going, see how it works, and I commend you on the suggestion. And when will, Madam Clerk, when will we make a committee?
Once it gets approved, so the quickest would be this meeting.
It'll be the next meeting, and I'll look forward to your recommendations with respect to committee membership. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you wanted to share more about it.
Well, just to answer your question, I think that the longevity of a committee like this would be relevant, you know, though this is an ad hoc and the intention is that there's a start and an end, we may look at this as a pilot run for a longer committee, maybe iron out some kinks through the process of it and clarify its purpose and vision and look at that for the longevity of it. And for one example, wow, I don't think, but there's coming down the line in tonight's meeting that would have decided the purview. And so I think that this is going to be something that's going to be beneficial for a very long time.
Marvelous, thank you. Let's see. There's the presentation. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We do. Thank you, Mayor. Our first speaker will be Zach.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. There we go. So on the community development, I started pushing a couple of things over the last election when I was running for Yuba County Supervisor District 5. And one of the things that came up about Marysville that kind of seemed to hum pretty well on the campaign trail when I'd meet your constituents along with many other people from the area was the idea of taking the new district map, you know, as far as the way that Marysville's set up to be District 2 now, and possibly putting for a voter ballot on the county ballot to take District 10 that is now part of District 2 and also out of Linda and possibly add it under your city. This jived a lot with your local citizens and it jived a little bit with the people outside of here in District 10. We're on the like Laurel area and part like that. And I don't know if you guys could maybe add this in as a part of your economic development plan ad hoc, but that's something that I got drumming the idea on, because the problem with Marysville ever since 1863 is it's bound by its levies. And if you can get different types of land, more housing, et cetera, and offer them benefits to becoming part of the city rather than being part of the catch, you know, as few county resources there are so many people, especially in the rural parts like District 10 and up, you know, where I'm from further up, there might be some play there to improve the city like it hasn't been seen in over 100 years. So anyway, I just wanted to pitch that right now. It seemed like the right time, and thank you guys for your work.
Thank you. Did you want to comment on that?
Mr. Cross, just duly noted. Definitely. I'm not sure who the appointments are going to be on this committee for sure, but
well, you're going to be one of them.
If then yes, I'd love to get together with you and talk more about that and definitely look into that.
I'm definitely interested in serving my community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, public time for public comments closed. Madam Clerk. Oh no. Scared you, didn't I?
Council discussion.
Oh,
is it discussion or we just?
I thought, forgive me, I thought the discussion was complete.
I have no need to discuss. I was just curious.
Move to approve then.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Here we go. We'll now move on to item number 8. Oh my goodness, the Motorola contract. The recommendation passed a motion to approve an appropriately numbered resolution authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute a lease agreement with Motorola Solutions Incorporated for acquisition of new radios, radio infrastructure, and programming for the Marysville Police Department. Chief Christian Sachs, I presume you are presenting on this?
Yes, sir.
Got your name on it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, on council, I won't repeat the recommendation. However, the rationale for the recommendation is, staff has determined that there's a true and real need that exists for the acquisition of the equipment, and Motorola Solutions Incorporated requires an approved lease agreement for this process. The California Department of Justice in January of 2021 made it mandatory for agencies to go digitally encrypted, if not have a policy put in place for the meantime and develop a plan to go digitally encrypted. Years we did that while we also solicited vendors to look at the infrastructure. We've been at this for just about 2 years now, as far as reviewing infrastructure, different vendors, and looking at the operations of the facility itself and what would need to happen for the upgrades. So the police department has conducted an extensive analysis internally and with the consultants necessary for the upgrades and new equipment needed to meet the federal and state mandates to improve our radio interoperability. We met with council in June of 2022 and briefed council in several other meetings in reference to this project, and did some budgeting in June of 2022 for this. Sutter Buttes Communications, additionally, in addition to this project, has done a scope of work for our facility to upgrade, to meet infrastructure upgrades for R56 grounding to support the project. And based on this extensive analysis, it's taken us quite some time to get it just right and perfect to the best of our ability at this point. And based on that analysis and project proposal, staff is confident that this upgraded system will support the requirements for digital encryption, our radio coverage, and increase our radio operability. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions for council.
Let's see, we want public comment first, don't we? Okay, the matter is now open for public comment, Madam Clerk.
No public on this item.
Matter public comment is closed. Council.
No, through the chair,
Councilman Hudson.
So I've read the proposal, the many renditions that you've worked on, Chief Sachs, over the past year. And so I totally see the need we need for channel guarding and locking and so forth. It's a mandate and so forth. Remind me, the one question I have out of rereading it, this is an augmentation to your budget from the general plan, is it not? From the general budget. The $600,000 upgrade is not in your current budget.
I can. So in the budget process, we allocated or appropriated with council approval $1 million.
I remember.
And that was $1 million of ARPA funding.
ARPA, thank you.
So
okay.
That $1 million, of that $1 million, we intend to make a down payment or cash payment to Motorola of $800,000. ARPA.
Thank you.
And
here's the question.
Full transparency, ARPA becomes general fund dollars.
It does.
So 800,000 cash payment. We have, and Jennifer may have to correct me, we have an annual payment of 104 for 7 years after that.
General.
Yeah. And the remaining 200,000 for this fiscal year of the $1 million would go towards the R56 upgrades, which aren't included in the Motorola contract. They're that building upgrades that an electrician will have.
Okay.
As well as a contingency, Because we know things tend to
Change.
prop up that accounted for. Any of that 200,000 that isn't spent on the R56 upgrade or the contingency would just be returned to the general fund.
Clarification for that $170,000 yearly upgrade for 7 years is going to come straight out of the general fund augmentation.
That would, yes.
Okay. But everything else is ARPA right now, which is great. Kind of go from there. That answers my question. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Let me ask you, Chief, this is basically a funded mandate. Federal government mandates this?
Correct.
And I know there was some concern about identity theft because of certain information that would be given over the radios when you're checking identity and what have you. Were there benefit, I guess another benefit to the police department or the users would be they're not going to have eavesdroppers, right?
They're not going to have any what? I'm sorry.
You're not going to have anybody listening in on your calls.
Well, they can listen in, they're just not going to hear anything. They're going to hear it gargled because it'll be encrypted. So they won't be able to obtain the information that's going out via those wavelengths.
Now, does that make the police job easier or more effective or more discreet? What are the benefits?
Well, on the PRA, it makes it a lot more beneficial.
What?
On the public records request
Thank you.
that we get for PRAs, it makes it, I mean, staff time go way down because there's less information to release because there's nothing there. As far as it goes on the encryption side of it, when are out there and they're deploying for a special deployment or search warrant, even going to the tactical channels, you know, their radio coverage will be encrypted. So less likely for the criminal element to know that they're coming, so to speak. So, or hearing, you know, those callers and the dispatch information going out. So it will definitely enhance that side of it.
Thank you. Any other questions? What's the will of the council?
To make it sure, just really quickly to kind of clarify a couple of things that you said, Chief. So you guys, you'll still maintain a recording of the calls.
Correct.
Right? But on a public information request, you won't have to release the recording of the call.
We'll release the recording of the call. There just
You'll just cut out the section that is sensitive to somebody's identification, right?
Correct.
Okay.
There will be some redaction on that side of it, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, please, will of the council.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this resolution and authorize the city manager to start the lease agreement with Motorola Solutions.
Awesome. Do we have a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, that is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You're up again, Chief. This is an agreement with Lens Lock Inc. Item number 9 on the agenda. Recommendation is to pass a motion to number 1, approve an agreement with Lens Lock Inc. to purchase officer body worn cameras, I should say, in-car cameras and related other equipment and services for $247,719.30 for the 5-year period of July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2028. Annual payments noted here of $49,543.86. 2, authorize the chief of police or designee to execute the Lens Lock Inc. agreement and any associated amendments to the agreement thereafter. 3, authorize the finance director to make a supplemental appropriation of $49,544 to the appropriate account. And 4, requirement for a request for proposals and RFP for the provisions of Marysville Municipal Code. will have a question just on the wording of this. And the presenter again is Chief of Police Christian Sachs. Chief.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Honorable Council. Again, I won't repeat the long recommendation. However, the rationale for this recommendation is the Marysville Police Department is the only agency in the region that we're the last to go this route with body worn cameras or in-car cam. We feel that these are a beneficial tool to our everyday job. We've polled our staff, and our staff is very agreeable to moving in this direction. We've been examining the different body worn cameras, since they came out, and they were cost prohibitive to, looking at a bunch of different analysis that's been done recently on cameras and the feasibility of and affordability. Body worn cameras increasingly are used to improve evidence collection and agency transparency, document encounters between law enforcement and the public, strengthen officer performance and accountability, investigate and resolve complaints in a much more faster fashion, reduces staff time, and also officer involved incidents, such as officer involved shootings or any other critical incidents to capture. LensLock is the manufacturer that we've done an analysis, and LensLock Incorporated is the vendor that we've chosen. They're offering body worn cameras and in-car cameras for free from the time of the approval until June 30th, 2023. And then the 5-year contract would begin July 1, 2023. To go a little bit further, in 2021, Sutter County Sheriff's Department created an internal working group and conducted an analysis of Axon, LensLock, and WatchGuard. We've been in contact with Sutter County and obtained their analysis from that. Additionally, in 2021, County Sheriff's Department also completed analysis, and we were in contact with them, and both entities chose LensLock Incorporated, just as we were looking at. Lens companies that offered both past and future, which is critical because so any of the stuff that we currently have as digital evidence on file now, it's for free of charge. They will upload all that into and maintain all that digital storage evidence for us. And then anything going on in the future for the next 5 years. They're the only company that included also no cost unlimited redaction service, which was huge because all the companies before and the other two that we looked at, those are an additional fee. Redaction is when you get a public records request from somebody to release video, you have to go in and review the video and then put a blurry face or over the other parties' faces within the video, and or over license plates or business names within that video that aren't a part of that call for service that were captured in the video. So entities were having to increase staff in order to do redaction internally. Well, LensLock offers that at no cost for unlimited usage. So that was another reason why we chose them. And they're the only company in the nation right now that's offering that. LensLock offers a no, while other vendors such as Axon are charging 10. Our district attorneys access to that digital evidence. So right now we have staff that will investigate the incident. We'll bring in that digital evidence. We'll store it on our drives. We'll wait. The district attorney will request it. We'll have to get our staff to make digital copies of it for the district attorney, for the defense attorney, any private attorneys or anybody else involved. Sometimes it's multiple copies. And then we're sending, hard copy disk or thumb drives over there. So as a cost reduction, we won't have to do. It'll be actually stored on the cloud once it's releasable to them. They'll have to remove that digital file for the court process, and then they can disseminate it through the defense under the discovery motion and eliminate some of those processes and save staff time on our end. So those were big ticket items for us. We're looking at for the total project that we're requesting an agreement. It would be 22 of the Gen 12 body cameras to supply to all of our officers, detectives, and add some of the admin staff, including our community service officers. And then there'll be 13 Titan 5 in-car video systems for all the marked patrol units that would be out there on patrol, and they are all synced together in that. So they also would also include this is the installation, the hardware warranty. Months we'll get new cameras, so they will come in at month 30 and they will replace any and all in-car cameras and body cameras at month 30 out of month 60. So halfway through, we'll get all brand new devices at that point in time to make sure we're up with the latest and greatest technology. It's a free CADing integration. So when it integrates into our computer automated dispatch system, that's all free. So that integration there, migration and hosting of the legacy data, like I've already talked about, with the digital evidence we already have on file, and the redaction services. And then they also have the 24/7, 365 customer support for the software. In the event that there's a glitch or something happens, we have support around the clock. And then we have the evidence management software, which is the district attorney portal that allows them that information. We are requesting to waive the bidding requirements pursuant to 2.76.120 based on the 4 criteria I outlined in here, and I can describe those if needed. And I'd be happy to answer any questions for council.
Okay, first we need to open the public comment. Now open to public comment, Madam Clerk.
No public speakers, Mayor.
Public comment closed. Oh, yes, Mayor.
Sorry, real quick. I also have, I think Zach Hernandez, is he on there, Nicole? So we also have Zach Hernandez available. Zach is the representative from LensLock, just in case there's some questions that need to be answered from LensLock's side of it. With Zach available.
I'll have a question for him.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Vice President.
The story, and then there'll be a yearly fee after that.
Yes. Well, our hope and anticipation would be is at the end of the 5 years, we'll renew with them for another 5 years and continue to deploy the body cameras and in-car cameras. So that would be, this is just for the initial first 5 years.
Well, what will the second 5 years be for? To buy new cameras again? Because that's my second question is,
correct.
You said that after 30 months, then they'll upgrade with everything.
Correct.
Which will come to the 60 months.
Correct.
And then at the end of the 60 months, are we going to be looking at the same kind of cost to buy them again?
Correct.
I would say, just if
Go ahead.
I might, this is more like a typical lease where we don't own the product in the end. A straight lease where we lease it, they maintain it, we make our strokes, and at the end of 10 years or 5 years, we would probably just continue on with a yearly stroke with the same arrangement. There's probably going to be some price escalation at that point.
So we're looking roughly at $50,000 every year. And then every 30 months, the cameras need to be replaced.
Yeah, we would probably continue.
Or every 30.
Yeah.
As part of the contract though. So as part of that $50,000 a year at month 30, they come in and replace every camera for free as part of that contract.
Yeah.
Right. So so the camera is month 30, there's new cameras that are installed with the latest technology. And then at month 60, when the contract's going to expire, we would return to council. And if this is still continued benefit for us to continue down the road of body cameras and in-car cameras, we would bring that proposal back to council to renew for an additional 5 years or whatever the contractual agreement is at that point in time.
So again, it's basically we're leasing them for $50,000 a year.
Correct.
Okay.
Leasing them and
And the service.
And
associated service.
all the services that.
Yeah, okay. And then is all this gonna be right out of general fund money?
Yes.
Sure.
Chief, thanks for the presentation, and I agree with Art about moving for the bidding requirement, because I trust your research. What you just shared with that, and I understand the bidding process being cumbersome as it is. So I agree with that portion in here. The funding of it, I guess I need a little clarification, because as I read through this, NCC, SIF, our insurance packages, I need someone to help me understand. There's a $10,000 offset inside of our insurance packages that we have through our city's insurance and so forth. Is that going to reduce the $50,000 a year from 50 to 4?
So for the first year, the first $49,000 payment would be reduced by that 10,000. Then some change that's in there. So NCCSIF every year puts a certain, for risk management, puts a certain amount of money aside. And I think it was like $1,200 or $1,800. It was a small amount that they put away every year that we could use towards a project such as body worn cameras. That's how long we've been examining and looking at this. And over the last 5 years, that money's been accumulating. So now it's at 10,000 and some change. So we are going to petition NCCSIF because they really want us to spend that money. We're going to petition them to acquire that 10,000 and put that towards the first year's payment to offset the first year payment. So it'd be down to 39,000 and some change. Additionally, I know it comes out of the general fund, but periodically throughout, as years progress and go on with body worn cameras, there is different grant opportunities that come out. So it's one of those things for us that we would be remiss if we didn't continue to look for those grants and apply for those and try to be successful for those to help offset some of those future costs as we move forward. So our staff will be keeping an eye on that, working with other staff just to figure out when those grants are coming out or our eligibility for those, and be bringing those back to council in the future if this was to be approved this evening, to be able to look at how we could offset some of those additional costs and save that money.
Thank you. And I do see the need for this to happen with our city and department for cover our risk kind of situation. And so thank you for that. The grant question I did have on that aspect, because I know that there are grants out there, and I'm not going to keep saying, go back to, like you water and things of that sort, but have we looked at it? It looks like over a 5-year period, it's going to be just shy of $250,000 in 5 years for this whole thing to happen. And we're just going to give the okay if it get passed tonight, just go ahead and go with that coming out of general fund for the next 5 years. Transparency on that. Yes, no?
Well, there's no guarantee we're going to find some, there's no guarantee that we're going to find some grants, but we're going to be proactively searching for those and working with, EDC as well. I spoke with them earlier today about keeping an eye out for those grants. So ones that we would be eligible for that we could help try to offset this. So that'll be a priority for us as we move forward, just because we're about saving money too, as well in the end. That's why we're looking at this on the risk management side of things.
So one more question on that. I know that we were talking about another program. And again, you know this way better than anybody here that I'm aware of. Post does have certain accounts and necessary funding capabilities for law enforcement personnel within jurisdictions for certain things. Does any sort of purview for some funding?
No.
Okay. I wasn't quite
Not
sure.
from Post, no.
Not for Post or anything else statewide or anything of that sort. This is just the COR for us.
Well, as of right now, but I know there is some grants. There was some grants in the past out for it on the federal level, but all the larger agencies based on population were getting those. So, as the smaller populations and as those people are getting those grants and getting their programs up and going and solidified, we're in that same competitive pool. So like I said, we'll continue to look for that and be proactive and hopefully be bringing something back to the council in a future date, whether this is approved or not this evening, you know, to try to help offset some of those costs with the grant fund.
That answers my question. Thank you, Chief. And I do agree that we do need to consider this. And this is the whole vetted package. You're asking to waive the bidding process mostly because of the fact that you've already done all the research?
It's more than just the research that the chief did. Both counties have looked at this very thoroughly.
Yes, okay.
And vetted out the various competitors, and they both chose LiveStreams primarily because of the price or value they offer. The other companies don't offer all those freebies that were talked about, sure. And they're still higher priced than what the other counties experience. So I didn't feel there was a necessity to reanalyze it if the counties had already done that.
Thank you. I guess I missed it. There's other counties that you research this with, Chief?
What's
you
that?
Research this with other law enforcement agencies in our
Yeah,
area?
with Yuba and Sutter counties both. And I have their analysis as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Please, go ahead.
So when we fund this, is this going to be something we're going to try to fund out now, or we're going to build this into next year's budget?
It would actually get built into next year's budget.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. It would actually be built into next year's budget because we don't have a payment until next year. We will get the cameras this year, but we wouldn't have a payment until next year.
And then one last thing with what Councilman Hudson mentioned with the insurance savings, is that on an annual basis or is that a one?
It's a one-time,
well,
only.
So the 10,000 and some change that has built up as a one-time for this year. However, NCCSIF does put a small portion every year towards that, which would be, it's like $2,000 a year that would go towards it. So each year we would solicit NCCSIF for that $2,000 in funding. So it'd bring it down to 47,000, you know, to try to help offset that. And yes, our first payment isn't until July 1st of 2023, but if it was approved this evening, we would work out the agreement with LensLock, and, you know, if they installed them by, say, April 1st, then we would have April, May, and June of free software and camera usage for that 90 days. Just depends how quickly they can get them put in.
So that brings up another question, Chief. If it were to get approved tonight, what is the lead time needed to put this project in implementation?
Well, we're hoping within the next 60 days, but it just depends how busy they are. So we've got a small amount of units there, but they're doing some with Sutter County right now. I believe 30 something units with them right now. So we would wait our turn in line, and hopefully within the next 60 days. Our policies are already written and in place and approved through Lexipol. So we're hoping for the next 60 days if possible.
Okay, thank you.
Go for it.
Well, it's just more of a statement, and I'm all in favor of getting these. So don't get me wrong with that, but it seems that we're voting to do it before we even get it on the budget. We're committing to the money before we even budget it. That seems a little odd.
It's a weird timing issue. Alternatively, we could budget it for this year and then we would carry it over the next year because we wouldn't have a payment. So
how would we budget it for this year?
We would,
you mean for 23, 20?
We're going to budget $50,000 or $49,000 for this year. And then at the end of the year, say, okay, we didn't spend it, so we're going to roll it over to the next year in that.
That's just numbers.
It's just, yeah. So
that's just numbers. It just seems to me like we don't know that we have the money. We're just saying we have the money and we're going to build it, put it in the budget, whether we find it or not. That's a little concerning for me that we do it in that fashion.
Perhaps we could ask the attorney, we bring the law, if we commit to it now, there are no payments until next year with a view to, obviously we're committing an item on the budget for the next budget when we do this simultaneously. Are we breaking any rules?
Or not, yeah, and in fact, your action tonight will allow you to incur the debt, whether you pay it now or in the next. Now, as long as your finance director isn't gonna look us all in the eye and say, we really don't have the money to budget.
Yes, sir.
That brings up a question for, I guess, particularly finance director. We're slowly nipping away at our reserve fund on several of these decisions we're making over the past few months, and probably over the next few months. With this being incurred over the next 5-year debt of $250,000, how do you project that out?
So I am confident that we do have the funding. I am currently working with the city manager right now on updating the 7-year forecast to be bringing to council in the next month and a half, as we start talking through labor negotiations, so that you can see all the changes that we've made in a forecast to see where we're going.
Okay.
So it is forthcoming very soon to see how all these budget changes have come in. As you'll notice, when we bring back mid-year, sales tax is still not greatly increasing, but still on a slight increase. And there will be a budget adjustment request to bring more, increase the budget for sales tax and sale tax projections, which will more than offset the cost of this that's bringing forth tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, just I had a number in my head of what I knew all the departments were out of our past budget. You know, the fire department being some such $1 million, police department being some such million. How much? Well, I guess we're just going for your 7-year projection. So you just tell us what it could potentially be should this get agreed upon, or their increase in their particular budget. Never mind. I withdraw the question. Thank you.
I will say, sorry, Mayor, we are working on that 7-year forecast. There will be some one-time expenditures as well as some ongoing expenditures that we load in based on what's transpired over the last few months. We got a couple more tonight too. The majority of them are one-time expenditures, but we will have some additional ones with fire department and probably some proposals for our public streets related projects as well.
Mayor, one last question.
Okay, last.
Yes, sure, last. Jennifer, what is our reserve budget right now, percentage wise? I'm on the spot, sorry.
I know. I'm thinking I don't have an exact number.
I would not present a number unless you know it.
No, I don't have an exact number because a lot of it is missed. I have to pull out the fact that we have a lot of one-time money in ARPA. Yes. And in the golf course in there.
She doesn't have the number.
Yeah, any number I give you right now will seem overstated because I need to back those numbers out to give you a true cost.
I'm comfortable with your statement saying you believe we have it. I just wanted that information. If we could get that in your 7-year projection.
Yeah, that will 100% be included in those projections.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm done, Mayor. Thank you.
Last statement or question to Jim. I'm not sure where you were going with that, with the fact that one-time expenditures, this is 50 grand for here to eternity.
No, there are going to be both. This is a ongoing expenditure that will be loaded into the 7-year forecast, as well as any one-time expenditures, because they affect the 7-year forecast, specifically draw down the reserve.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, Mr. City Attorney, if you would refer to item number 9 for a moment, please. And on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line, beginning on the 6th line, it says authorize the chief or his designee to execute the agreement and any associated amendments to the agreement thereafter. And I've seen amendments more than equal an agreement. So what's exactly does that language mean?
Well, I'm interpreting it to mean any amendments that don't involve the expenditure of more money.
Or the reduction in services.
Yes. So and maybe you can add that to the motion if you wish for comfort, but no, I don't think the chief can all of a sudden add.
I didn't think
make it $20,000 more, so it's $70,000 a year. But yeah, it's just because maybe you need another gizmo to make the thing work, or maybe you need whatever.
I would recommend adding it to.
No, I think we can, when the motion is made, if that language could be added, just make reference to what the city attorney said. And I have one question, if the representative from Lenslock is really on the line, there he is. I see your picture. I think we wore him out.
I'm sorry, I was muted. My apologies.
Oh, no, don't apologize. Thank you. And how long has your company been in business?
We've been in business for 8 years, sir.
Did you say 8 years?
8, correct.
8 years. How did you get started?
We started off in San Diego. We opened office in Tampa. We opened office in Dallas now. That's where I'm stationed out. Sean is a representative out of California.
And is your technology proprietary, or did you see an established market and you came in with a better product?
We just came in with a better product, customer service, better pricing, like the chief had mentioned before. It's a web-based software, so it's not closed software, but you can access your evidence anywhere that you have basically internet access.
Yeah, open architecture is always a benefit to the customer. Thank you, sir, for answering those questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Again, to the city attorney, as a recovering attorney to a real attorney, it seems to me, and I had an in-depth conversation with the chief about the entry value of this material, when presuming our officers are all we hope them would be very helpful in minimizing litigation exposure. And I don't know what kind of expense the chief goes through in dealing with complaints about police behavior that can be just dismissed without lengthy investigations. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I do. A picture is worth 1,000 words. It has a very powerful evidentiary effect. And to the extent that an officer isn't up to par, it's also an opportunity for appropriate training. But I think I think in most instances, it helps the police defend false charges.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all.
No, I'd just like to make a
You just
motion.
got your red light on.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay. What is the will of the council?
I'd like to approve this agreement with LensLock for the body worn cameras and in-car cameras, and add the city attorney's comments about amendments.
I can say.
Did you get that? Thanks. Perfect.
Do we have a second?
Yep.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Madam Clerk, that looked like it was
Thank you.
unanimous. Thanks a lot, Chief, and thanks to the company. Okay, we're going to move past 10 because we did that up front. We're now moving to item number 11. And the title of agenda item 11 is award a contract for retaining wall and walkway repairs at Brent Field. Recommendation, pass a motion to award a contract in the amount of $215,674 to BK Custom Concrete for the construction of an approximately 370-foot long, 4-foot height concrete retaining wall and replacing damaged approximately approximately 598 square foot concrete walkway area at Bryant Field based on a contract number 01-107, project design / contract documents and contractors' proposals. And 2, authorize the finance director to make supplemental appropriation of up to $125,674 to an appropriately numbered account. Now I'm looking at that 125,674, and I'm looking at the first number in this agenda item, and there seems to be a transposition, or is that, are both numbers supposed to be the same?
No, they're not.
Well, okay, then please do. Then, Mr. Jim Shad, City Manager, please tell us all about this.
Okay, this is a unforeseen item as we started moving forward on the Bryant Field wall reconstruction, which that wall was in a state of extreme disrepair. As we uncovered the second part of the project, the left field wall, we found that a concrete retaining wall that was designed as a part of a previous project was never poured. And that represented problems in installing the new steel wall structure, in that the earth had nothing to retain it from contacting the steel structure. We found that during budget cycle, and we budgeted $100,000 in this year's budget for that. And that was based on a quote that we would receive from a contractor. Unfortunately, it looks as if that contractor miscalculated and underbid. We did and backed out of the project. We did quickly meet with another contractor, BK Custom Concrete, and under the timeline of getting this ready for the spring ball season with the Drakes, he gave us a price of $215,674. That price was reviewed by our city engineer, and he agreed that that was fair and reasonable. The price also includes about 75 to 80 feet more of section on the other opposite side along the foul line near the drive-through restaurant. I can't remember the name of it. As well as the 590 square foot section is flat concrete walkway that has been raised by tree roots, and we're having him repair that too. So it's $215,674 contract price. We have $100,000 budgeted. We did want to put a contingency in there of $10,000. That's how we come up with the $125,674. That's on the second page. That explains that. We need to get this done by preferably March, no later than May. Contractors agreed to start within the next 2 weeks. As you may have seen, we've already removed the old wall and are ready to move forward on the project. So we're asking council to both award the contract as well as make additional supplemental appropriation one time. This is one of the examples of one time of $125,674.
Thank you, Mayor. Our first speaker will be Zach Cross.
Gentlemen, you have a rough decision ahead of you here, because I've seen this ball field create problems for many people who've come before you and probably after on these expenditures, the limited money the Gold Sox themselves put forward. So my first questions would be, have you guys considered for Bryant Field is the Gold Sox field? Am I correct on that? Okay, excuse me. So when it comes to that ball field, we've seen arguments made that it should go to the boat ramp, which makes money, all sorts of different things over the years from your constituents who are a little bit more conservative up here in NorCal, as you know. So my questions would be, as somebody with experience over multiple fields, but spent a lot of time in the trades, I like operating heavy equipment. In lieu of the retaining wall, have alternate things such as geotech, which is a mesh made, it's a mesh that retains soil when you're dealing with embankments and stuff like that, been explored, which is much cheaper than concrete. A sump pump and other water mitigation possibilities, which also be cheaper. The correct vegetation itself would also help retain soil and mitigate water. These would be much cheaper than what you're looking at for the retaining field. And I'm just, there's a lot of money that has been pumped over the years. And it always seems to be an issue on the campaign trail. So whatever just tonight, can we really afford to keep dumping money into Bryant Field with the uncertainty of the future? We have Wall Street laying people off. We have big tech laying people off. There's a lot of things going on. So that was all I pretty much wanted to say. Have any of these other alternatives been explored in lieu of the expensive retaining wall? Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have?
Certainly. Geotech or vegetation would be an option if there were more real estate, but there is exactly 1 foot at max separation between the Caltrans right-of-way grade sidewalk and our wall, which is 4 feet grade differential. I don't believe vegetation could withstand that sharp of a grade, nor geotech and survive. Our engineer has looked at this, and he's usually pretty good at looking at cost-effective solutions. And this is the best solution he sees, which is what the balance of the wall is constructed.
I'm sorry, public comment. Council has advised me that. Thank you, sir.
I do not believe those solutions will work.
Madam Clerk, any?
No further speakers, Mayor.
Time for public comments closed. I've got to.
I just want to make sure it's clear that we're saying we're using this from the ARPA, but the ARPA is actually setting in the reserves, correct? Is a portion of the reserve.
Our finance director.
Correct. It is a portion of our reserves. I do also want to, when we brought the budget forth for ARPA, because it's just over 3 million that we allocated 1.9 million in this current year budget. And then we have about $650,000 proposed in next year that we discussed about some more grants possibly in the 22nd Street reconstruction. We still had 478,000 that was unallocated. So we still do have funds within our ARPA purview that we could use for this project. So yes, it is general fund, but at the same
reserve.
But it's yes, it is reserved, but it's still, we still have money within the ARPA reserve to absorb this current project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other? I've got. What the fence we're replacing, does anybody know when it was built?
2001, yeah.
And did I hear correctly, Mr. Shad, that the contractor did not do the work that was contracted and therefore the problem?
We are, my understanding in talking to our city engineer, John Mallon, who was around and designed the original project, was it simply not done because the city ran out of funding to complete it.
Oh, well then, here we are. Here we are. I remember knocking on doors when we were running, and we've all done this. And people would say, "What are you going to do?" And you know, the lake. Hotel Marysville was always first on the list, the lake and traffic, and then other things. Homeless was number 1 on the list in 2020. And the police and the city have done a wonderful job in mitigating that to the extent it can be mitigated in the state of California. But I did make a promise. I said, something I won't do I won't make a big mistake. And I know we all feel that way. I know we think about that when we execute things. And this was a big mistake. It's another mistake that we have to pay for today. And it's a correcting an error. And this fence is going to be here now. That fence will be there 50 years from now. I'm shocked if it was there 60 years from now. And we're doing it right in CapEx. And part of the CapEx is correcting an error.
Just to make clear, also on with this completed, we already have all of the metal to finish the fence setting in the courtyard right now. So it's not, there's not going to be additional expense on top of this to finish the fence. This is the key that you're exactly right. If somebody didn't do it correctly and we're fixing the mistake.
I just remodeled a house that wasn't done correctly in a lot of ways, and it cost a lot more to do it the second time around. And I can attest to Mr. Shadd's characterization of the original bid being insufficient, because in the remodeling, I was looking at doing a new driveway, concrete driveway. The price of concrete is shocking right now. And so it's just where we're living. Those are the end of my comments and questions. Councilman Bells, did you have something to say?
I would say it appears that we are in the can picking up business. Cans that have been kicked down the road. Yeah. And anyhow, with the season looming and coming upon us, it's we're kind of in a spot, right? I mean, we've contracted with the Drakes for a 3-year contract, and it is what it is. And thankfully, we've got the right staff and the right council that's correcting that. So I support it 100%. We'd make a motion to approve.
And if I could make one more comment before we go to a second. The ball field and the Gold Sox, we all thank the Gold Sox. It was a great run. And we're all hopeful for the Drakes. But with what we're doing to that ball field, the beauty, if you will, of a ball field, and I think baseball fields are beautiful, is also, it's a wonderful place. We had an event there last summer that was Oktoberfest. That was it, Oktoberfest. And I walked around there, and for a first time and not well publicized, it was a fabulous event. And I'm aware of people in the entertainment business that would like to have concerts there. It would be a wonderful venue for that. And we hopefully be able to generate some revenue and work against this cost. So we have a first, the will of the council.
Got a second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
With volume. Okay. I think we need to apologize to the nice people from Extreme Properties and Presidio Companies if they're still with us.
We are still in the line.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Item number 12 on the agenda. Disposition and development agreement for the B Street property. The recommendation, pass a motion to authorize the city manager or his designee to execute the disposition and development agreement with Engstrom Properties, Inc. and Presidio Companies, LLC, who are the developers for the B Street location. Mr. Dan Flores, please.
Oops. All right, gotta be able to see. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I just want to mention, I love my job because every time I get to come up and give you guys great news, and it's pretty cool. So, but besides that, thank you for the recommendation. You mentioned it eloquently, and now I'll just give you the rationale for the
recommendation. Dan.
Well, yeah, no, but you read it. So I thank you for reading the recommendation. And the rationale for the recommendation is for this agreement to facilitate the sale and development of a real property located on B Street in Marysville. The background behind this, the developers were selected by the city through an RFP selection process, and they submitted a disposition and development agreement outlining is under discussion analysis. And I want to mention this. The project qualifies for an exemption from the California Environmental Act, CEQA, per section 15332 of the CEQA guidelines. The class 32 infill development categorical exemption exempts the construction of infill development from CEQA review, provided that the consistent with zoning and general plan designations, occurs within the city limits, is served by utilities, and doesn't result in significant effects relating to traffic, noise, air quality, and water exemption. The development agreement itself is described. The developers intend to acquire the site from the city for the purpose of developing a hotel, a banquet hall, a restaurant, and grocery store. The project is described in the attachment that you have with your paperwork there and in the staff. The sale and site is the best in provisions of law. The site consists of approximately 5 acres and is described in detail in the development agreement. The city will sell the site to the developer for $1.26 million, and all the specific details regarding the sale and development of the site are spelled out in this attached agreement. On financial impact, in addition to the $1.26 million of sales price, the city will gain a projected sales tax and TOT, or transit occupancy tax, revenue of over $600,000 per year once the project is fully built out. The city attorney has reviewed the approved CEQA exemption and the development agreement, and this aligns with city council goals regarding economic development. And on the line today with us, we have Mr. Mark Engstrom and Mr. John Monley. If you have any further questions, Mr. Mayor or council.
First, we need to open for public comment. Madam Clerk, any public comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Our first speaker will be Zach Cross.
You came fully loaded today.
Well, I do have a fond memory of that B Street property. Unlike a lot of people, it allowed me to help the ad hoc committee get 2 dispensaries in this city. However, that being said, that piece of property has about bankrupted us more than once. And please, dear God, do whatever you can to develop it and get jobs. Thank you guys for moving forward on that property.
You will recall I spoke just recently about mistakes made in the past. This is, as Councilman Belza said, we're picking up cans. And anyway, before you introduce these gentlemen, I'd like to, as part of the recommendation, I'm stepping a little bit out of order, but I want to commend the process, because we ended up with a development team is absolutely first, in my opinion. And we ended up with that development team because Dominic Belza, who was in the real estate business, the traditional method apparently in the past, or in many cases, is you hire a consultant to look for developers and what have you. And Dominic suggested to our city manager that we engage a real estate broker to do that, Mr. Ed Nelson. And that led to Mark Engstrom of Engstrom Properties and his associate,
John Monley.
John Monley,
Right.
And others with the other group. And Dom made the suggestion. Our city manager saw the wisdom in it and acted on it instead of going with standard procedure. And we have ended up in a wonderful spot. And forgive me for jumping the gun. I wanted to say that up front before you introduced Mr. Engstrom and Mr. Monley, please.
Okay, absolutely. And Mr. Mayor, I would like to mention that Mr. Belza, referring Mr. Nelson, he did a really great job, and it was really, I'm just going to use the word easy to work with him and his suggestions that he provided through this process. It was a somewhat of a grueling process to get to this point, but we're excited to be here. And there's been a lot of participation and hard work on behalf of our own city attorney, on behalf of Mr. Shad, on behalf of Mr. Belza, and on behalf of Ed Nelson. So with that, though, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce Mr. John Monley and Mr. Mark Engstrom, both working on the projects. I don't know, John or Mark's going to be the speaker. It looks like he has his hand. So, Mark, if we could have a few comments, be great, and they may have some questions from you as well.
You bet. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I just want to say how excited we are for this opportunity to develop in your community. For us, it's been a blessing working with Dan and Mr. Shad and Ed Nelson through this whole process. We're excited about it. As I had mentioned in the interview process, our family has roots in Yuba-Sutter County. And we're excited to get our application before the Planning Commission and the City Council and be under construction as soon as we can. John and I are both here on behalf of Engstrom Properties to answer any questions. I think Gunit is also on a line with Presidio Properties and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. I'm looking around the council. Are any comments or questions of Mr. Engstrom or his colleagues? Mr. Engstrom, if I could call you Mark, there's no questions because everybody is so happy about the point we've arrived at here. And I expect I'd be shocked if we didn't have a unanimous and full voice vote in favor of this. And we're looking forward to seeing ground broken and new enterprises emerge, and they will be welcome in the city of Marysville.
Great. We're looking forward to it.
And you can listen in on the vote. No further questions or comments?
I make a motion.
What's the will?
Thank you, Mark.
And what is the will of the council?
I would like to comment.
Please.
No, I would. And I just want to say a couple things.
Councilman Bells.
Nicole, I believe Ed Nelson is on as an attendee. I hope he heard those kind words that you guys spoke because he really did a phenomenal job.
He did, yes.
Through this process and in procuring a developer and sitting in with the some of the negotiation meetings with Mr. Engstrom and his partners. I believe that we've made a very good choice with this developer. I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your comments, but I want to say that this process started long before this council was in place. And I think we've got to go back and make an acknowledgement to the preceding council that unencumbered the property initially from its debt that allowed this to happen. You two sat on that council with a number of other people. And without that, taking that first step of unencumbering it from the debt load that was on it, never would have opened the door to be able to move towards redevelopment. And so I just want to make that acknowledgement. And also staff, Jim, Dan, and our city council has been just phenomenal through this process of getting this thing moving. Everybody's had their fingerprints on this, including all 5 of us on the council, and it's good to see it come to fruition. Thank you.
Comments. Thank you.
Can I
will
go
the council, please?
I make a motion, move to approve.
We have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Mr.
Thank you.
Mr. Monley and Ed Nelson, if you're there, thank you. We're looking forward to the future.
Great.
All right. Okay. That was fun. Gentlemen, committee. Councilman Belza.
Let's see here. I was going to mention Marnie's our appreciation for her. At this time, we had a government affairs committee meeting, and but I already said what I had to say about Marnie. They had an EDC, Economic Development Corp, meeting and fiscally sound right now. There's some money available through the EDC for small businesses for financing. If you know anybody that needs to get a loan for their business, they've got some pretty good incentives. And I just want to thank the EDC for helping us out. They're providing administrative services for some grants that we're working on, in particular into small business development and some of those components. So that's all I have as far as committee reports.
Let's work it this way.
So I'd like to say quickly, I'm no longer chair of the Yuba-Sutter Transit Board, which is fine. Time to rotate out, but I'm still on that committee. Furthermore, since I was an alternative for the BMLC, Beal Military Liaison Committee, we just got back from a joint trip that was set up by Janie and Sammy Nall for visiting Creech and Nellis Air Force Base to get the inner workings of that, how the Air Force works with those communities, to be able to, you know, see how we can work better with our community here in Beal Air Force Base. There was a lot going on. It was a great trip, and I'm honored to represent the city of Marysville, as there were other people from Yuba County Supervisors, Sutter County Supervisors, Yuba City Council, and several key members of the community. It was very fortuitous in the fact that we were actually there during what they call Red Flag Week, which is every 2 years, they get all the aircraft together and do warfare scenarios with over 100 aircraft flying at 24 hours a day, just about. And so we got to be in the Thunderbirds warehouse hangar and watch about 40 jets take off one night with the A-10 Warthog. And then we got to practice flying drones at Creech for a second. And it was really, really neat. I really would like to see if we could do that here at Beal Air Force Base. And I'm going to talk with the Nalls to see if we could do like we did 4 years ago for the Marysville City Council to go take another tour of Beal Air Force Base post-COVID and be able to work with the colonel and the staff and so forth, because I truly do believe the Beal Air Force Base is a very integral part of our community in general. So I'd like to continue to foster and support that. So that's all I got for my committees. And I thank you.
Let's start with the Vice Mayor Buttacavalli. We'll work it in this way. I'm trying to be appropriate here.
Just as in, just a little update on the Yuba-Sutter Transit. We're still looking for an executive director. The regional waste that Brad and I are both on did just hire one. It's this we're trying to fill. The salaries are unbelievable, but it does look like we're going to have some recruits, quality recruits coming through. So we'll be able to hopefully fill that position, and maybe the next.
Put me in, Coach. Councilman Gilchrist.
Mr. Mayor, I don't really have any comments today, committee comments, so I'm gonna pass.
I'll finish very quickly. Also on the liaison committee, I had the honor of visit with at Air Force Base the last 10 days. And I was hosted by, this was set up by Command Chief Master Sergeant, amazing woman. We had met and she asked me what my specialty was in aviation traffic control in Moscow. She was involved in a lot of intelligence stuff. Wonderful woman. And she said, would you like to see the tower? And from that, I end up a visit. And I have a host group that includes Command Master Sergeant Colonel Dustin Wilson and wish I had a call sign. And Staff Sergeant Shelby Hull, Senior Airman Cassidy Lynch, and Staff Sergeant Zachary Cash up close. I mean, within 30 feet of them as they're rolling out on the runway in the chase car. And it just does your heart good to see the quality of people that are attracted to our service and perform at such a high level. You could tell these were all high performance people. And I met the people in the department where they don't just do the local weather. They have pilots departing sometimes for 12-hour flights, and they need a real weather briefing. In fact, call sign Mako told me he did a flight from the UK to the US, and he was in that aircraft for 13 hours straight. And I looked into the cockpit of a U-2. It is not roomy. It is not roomy. But it was wonderful, and it makes you feel great about the country. And I'm going to actually prepare a written description and story of my visit and share it with the local newspaper and see if they're interested in publishing it. I've got photos, the whole works, and I can't get his attention. Anyway, that's my report. That's my report on County Council correspondence.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Each of you have received a note and an invitation from Judy Mann at your position at the dais.
Mr. City Manager.
Had a lot of items on the agenda tonight, and I first of all wanted to say I think we're just getting started. There's more to come, but I did want to thank my staff. This was a phenomenal amount of work to get to this point in the meeting, several big ticket items. They all played a part in it, and this is the teamwork that we've been talking about. I think we have a great team, and they've done an excellent job in moving things forward. Coming up, we will probably be scheduling some meetings with council members individually to start going over budget, strategic planning, mid-year forecasting and such. So prepare for those phone calls from Nicole to start scheduling. I wanted to commend our police department specifically this week. Several items happened over the last few days. The first that I recall was the hit and run accident that we had on 70 B Street. The chief's staff, his investigators and patrol folks quickly narrowed down the suspect vehicle and then the suspect and had that person in custody, I believe, in about 24 hours. But phenomenal police work done there. We just had another incident, I believe, Yuba County homicide, where our officers found and arrested the suspect as well. And then last,
that homicide was in the county, but we made the arrest in Marysville with our officers.
Yes.
Fabulous.
That was the 10-year-old.
Last thing, we have a lot of guests from the Chinese community in, and for our benefit, we had quite a few homeless down in that area, made a huge mess, and were disruptive to the guests. So our police officers responded quickly and not only moved the homeless people along, but also spent some time cleaning up all the mess that they left there. So great work there. I believe Public Works also helped with that in community development. Couple of grants that we just got news on: a mode shift grant for traffic calming in the 14th Street FG&H area. think that was for roughly 160 or 170, Vincenzo. Yeah. He's an engineer. He knows the exact amount. And then a regional effort, SS4A, which stands for Safe Streets for All. That was for $800,000.
Mr. City Manager, the grant that our Public Works Director, Vincenzo Caruso, targeted and won. It was not obvious that that pool of grant funds was a perfect fit. And he took a truthful and bona fide approach to it and won. And it's just a wonderful thing because it will address and help us work on the problems on cut-through driving, at least in that section of town, and could serve as a model for managing cut-through driving and managing traffic problems throughout the city. And I just want to add a little emphasis to that. I think that was really important, a real creative and entrepreneurial approach. I very much appreciated, sir.
And he did that about 2 months into his tenure, I believe, because we submitted about a month ago, I think. And I believe we've submitted a second grant as well, right? Have we submitted the one, the maintenance and modernization grant yet?
That's correct, Jim.
Okay, so, and that is related to the 22nd Street improvements. So we are waiting to hear on that. I will also, as long as we're giving kudos, I'd like to give kudos to the mayor and Vincenzo and Dan. They have been attending the SACOG meetings, which is very key to our success in getting funding. Our presence, and particularly the mayor's presence at that level on the transportation committee, which is one of the most important committees at SACOG, it really helps us secure funding and voice our concerns in the region. So
can't help myself. I gotta again, Vincenzo, our Public Works Director, sat with me because the SACOG committees now are all Zoom there. And honest to goodness, he sees things, discussion, it was pure synergy. 1 and 1 equaled more than 2, I think. And we got something out of that and some thoughts to move forward. So don't ask for a raise. I'm just saying nice thing.
And the last thing I have is Buckeye Parade. Public Works has an entry in the parade. And I can't tell you all the secret details. I do know that community development has hung on to their coattails and is planning on being present as well. And I think Vincenzo was intending to invite council members if they wanted to join. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we'll represent the city. So if anybody wants to ride on with a public works vehicle, we'll definitely welcome that.
And I will say, just one hint, it is the year of the rabbit. That's all I'm going to say. Notice he didn't answer you on that. And I've been telling staff, this might date me, but in the words of Hannibal Smith, I love it when a plan comes together. Got a great A team and plans are coming together. So that's it.
Thank you, sir. Further council comments, requests will start with.
I have no council comments. I would like to make comments. Oh my goodness. Are you sure? Are you really here? I don't have any council comments other than the obvious, which is I'm really proud to be a part of this team. I do very little. I just show up here. But I'm going to mention something because we've mentioned the Chamber of Commerce. We've mentioned Beale Air Force Base. And I have to tell you something. You know how I got here? My father was an engineer with the United States Air Force. And he came to Camp Beale before it was Beale Air Force Base. And he was actually directed to speak to the Marysville Chamber of Commerce and ask them for a housing study. And the housing study was for the 20,000 engineers and their families that were coming to the new Beale Air Force Base. And the Appeal Democrat covered this meeting. And there is a picture of my dad before he married my mother on the cover of the Appeal Democrat. Headline news, top of the line. Just thought I'd mention that. That's my council comment.
It's going to be a tough comment to touch. Okay, Mr. Vice Mayor.
And I want to say thanks to Jim, and I know he had to have a lot of the staff help. When I proposed putting the rec development committee together and brought Dominic on board with myself and Jim, I had a lot of expectations of what I thought we could get done. And the idea the main idea was to try to start making these facilities revenue generating. And we talked about many of them. Bryant Field, which to me, right next to the lake, is the jewel of Marysville with the history that it has with it. The soccer fields, the softball fields, the racetracks. Since we put this together, and I'll direct a lot of it towards Jim and whoever staff helped you through many of these, Dan, I'm sure, and I'm sure all along the line. But the facilities are getting better by far. The utility situation has been getting better. We're going to be able to split them up and actually cover our costs, which have not necessarily happened in the past. We were able to bring get the fence, and we also have a lot of other things to do at Bryant Field. The Pecos League, obviously, we just got a new soccer contract. The softball fields are being revamped and coming along with lots of interest in people wanting to play there. We got the new racetracks down there. The concert you talked about, hopefully we'll have more with interest. But I just want to thank everybody for keeping that in mind. One of the things I had said from day one was I felt we sold Plumas Lake and that money went into the reserves of $800,000, that a lot of that should be invested back into recreation. And we've been able to do that. And I'm really proud to see the way these contracts are coming along. And I think when we're done with Bryant Field, it's along with the Pecos League, it's going to be one of the best facilities in Northern California.
Wilson.
I'm just happy. It's a great opportunity to be a part of this city and the movement and the momentum that's happening right now. And there's just so many good things happening. Huge shout out to all the staff. You talked about it, and just everything, all the directors, everybody working every department. And I talked to folks in town, and I told them this, that you can have a great council and horrible stuff, and you won't get anything done. And you can have great staff. We've got a great team on the field. So thank you, everybody, for all of your contributions.
Councilman Hudson.
So reiterate a little bit what everybody's already said. Public Works has done a phenomenal job. Thank you, Jacinto and Dan, everybody, for what you guys have been doing to just general, just picking up the sweeping, the extra little things. It's exceptionally noticeable. And staff, I see you guys put a lot of work in this last agenda. Thank you very much. And I look forward to having conversation of a lot. I'm just going to say that. So, But I also, a big going on, and I got a special thanks, not only for the fire department and public works and staff in general, what you're doing. Chief Sachs and Marysville Police Department did a phenomenal thing for a philanthropic organization that I belong to, Marysville Oaks Lodge. And the fortuitous timing of your officer to go there and actually catch the copper thieves as they were cutting the copper was so gratifying. I just want to thank you for your officers and what they did at that particular moment. And I don't know what the disposition of those thieves are, but I hope they stay where they need to be for quite some time. And we'll go from there. Don't burst my bubble and tell me what happened to him. Thank you for the police department and everything there. And I'm excited about what's going on. B Street has got me jazzed. And Street grant speed. So thank you very much. Streetlights. Thank you.
Real quickly, it was just a few days after my visit to Beale that I was having lunch at Casa Carlos, and Ron came by, Ron Carlos, proprietor, and out of nowhere he says, you know, I've been thinking about putting together a discount program for people at Beale. and what do you think? And I said, well, funny you should ask. It's like a great idea. And I'm going to try to encourage him to talk it up in the entire restaurant and beverage and entertainment community, at least in Marysville, and put something together. And I've had an early conversation with and Chief Sergeant Oliver on that. And very quickly, if we're going to talk about things, almost like money going to recreational, I got to put a word in for my pal Bill Simmons, former city councilman. And you know what I'm going to talk about, don't you? Oh. We are at confluence of two rivers, not one, two rivers, and we do not have a boat ramp access that works. And I think that's no one's fault in this room or who's been in this room for a while, but something time, and I do. And this seemed like an appropriate time further to the Vice Mayor's comments. Just a minute, I think I get to say this. Next meeting, regular meeting of the Marysville City Council, Tuesday, the 21st of February, 2023 at 6 p.m. We are now adjourned.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe, with lessons in person and personalized. Instruments including guitars and amps, horns, strings for instruments, and a myriad of music and sound equipment. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe.